with the proof of the metric surgery theorem. So I give you a more precise statement. So the theorem says that there exists some universal constant delta naught positive and a function delta prime defined from 0 delta 0 to the interval, say 0 epsilon divided by 10. Such that, so assume that you have phi non-negative function non-negative increasing function, a Riemannian manifold which is phi pinched, a delta neck n of scaling factor lambda such that the middle sphere of n bounds a triball. So whose it has a name. No, bounds a triball. Then there exists a metric G plus on M such that G plus is equal to G on the complement of the ball. G plus is strictly less than G on the interior of the ball. G plus is phi pinched. And maybe you can choose a point P in the interior of the ball. So the ball centered at P of radius delta prime of delta minus 1 endowed with the metric lambda G plus is delta prime of delta minus 1 close to the same ball in the standard solution, in the standard initial metric. I think it's all. Okay, so I'm going to do a picture. So assume that here you have your initial metric. So here you have your delta neck. And you assume that the middle sphere of the neck bounds a triball. So the triball is here. And so you construct a new metric on the manifold, so on the metric is different on the ball only. And the metric looks like something like that. So here you put a no metric G plus, which is less than G. And in such a way that, so maybe the point P is here, after the transformation of metric is here, and the ball centered at P for the rescale metric. So imagine that you consider the dilation of G plus by lambda with some radius delta prime of delta minus 1 is close to the ball of same radius in the standard initial metric. Okay, so the claim is that this ball here is delta prime of delta. Here there is not minus 1 because this is small. Okay. The radius is large, but this is small. Okay. So maybe I have to precise what is the scaling factor lambda of the neck, of the delta neck. So recall that by definition, n is a delta neck, so of scaling factor lambda. If there exists a diffeomorphism, say psi, from the standard delta neck, which is the product of S2 with this interval, so 2n, such that if you pull back the metric, here you have the metric G, here you have the standard metric G cylinder. So if you pull back the metric and dilate the metric by the factor lambda, it is closed in the C delta minus 1 topology to the cylindric metric. Okay. So you have to think to something like that. So here you have your standard neck. And here you have something which is, after dilation, close to this. So the factor of dilation is lambda. So of course you have to dilate the metric to compare the metric to the cylinder, to the standard metric. Okay, so the proof of the theorem has two steps. So before going into the proof, yes, maybe I have to precise the definition of the standard initial metric. So we need to fix the definition of the standard initial metric on R3. So again, there is two steps. So start with, okay, so fix, so let R0, R dot be the radius of an hemisphere of sectional curvature 1/2. And so we want to glue this. Okay. We want to glue this to a cylinder, to S2 cross, say, 0 plus infinity with a scalar curvature 1. And so to do this, we define a function u. So u of r. So maybe I put a picture. It is simpler to give formula. So this number here, R0, is smaller than the 3. So choose a function u. So here you have R0. So here it is constant with value square root of 2. Here it is given by a sinus. And you have, it is not very nice. You have to pass the sinus function with the constant function. So the precise formula is square root of 2 sinus r divided by the square root of 2 on this part for a small alpha positive. Square root of 2 for r larger than r0, and between we just require that so a prime is positive and the second derivative is negative in the middle, this part. Okay, so this is not yet the standard metric. So put Gu equal to dr square plus u square d theta square. So the metric looks like this. So here it is cylindric. Here it is spherical. It is with constant curvature. And the radius here is R0. Okay, and once we have this function, we define bar G0 as a conformal transformation of this one. So f is a function which depends only of the radial direction, and f looks like something like this. So f is very small. It is positive and close to 0. But it is constant near 0. It decreases exponentially to 0 between, say, 2 alpha and 5, and then you have to glue something here. So imagine that, so you have to imagine that alpha is small. So 2 alpha is smaller than R0. So the new metric is like that. So away from the ball of radius 5, it is again cylindric, so it is a cylinder. And then you have to pinch. You have to pinch a little this metric. So in such a way that near the end it remains with a constant curvature because the factor here is a constant. So between, say, so 3 and 5, it is just the pinch. You have just pinched the cylindrical metric. So 3 is here. So here it is G cylindrical, and something between. So the fact we need is that here the sectional curvature is positive. So fact the sectional curvature of this metric, bar G0, is strictly positive on the ball of radius 5. And so, of course, the curvature goes to zero when you get closer to the cylindrical part. In particular, there exists a positive number, say K0, such that the curvature is larger than K0 on the ball of radius 4. Okay. So we have to choose a function f which satisfies some estimate. Don't write on the board. So the proof of the theorem has 2 steps. So the step 1 is to find the diffeomorphism. So I will keep my notation. So I have noted it again, psi. So psi from B, so the ball where we want to change the metric, to the ball of radius 5 for the GU metric. So such that so phi is 1 plus delta Lipschitz, and it is close to be isometric on the part of the ball which is sent to the annulus of radius between 3 and 5. And so phi is delta close, I will write delta isometric on phi minus 1 of so say the annulus, so the set of point of the ball which have radius between 3 and 5. So it is better to do picture. I erase it. So you have your neck, your ball. So I want some. So here I have the ball of. So maybe I have to take larger. So on this part, the GU metric is cylindric. Okay, it is writing. I have erased it, so it is GU here. Here it is cylindric. So I want a diffeomorphism from this ball to this ball, such that this is close to be isometric, and on the complement, it is 1 plus delta Lipschitz. Once I have do this, I push the metric G on this set. So I define bar G, the push forward. So I have to rescale the metric to compare to this one, because I have put no assumption on the curvature here. So maybe the curvature here is very large. So I have to rescale the metric to compare to this one. And the scaling factor of the neck is lambda. So I push lambda G on the metric here. So here I have lambda G, bar G. Okay, so this is the first step. And the second step is to interpolate this metric with the standard initial metric. So step 2. So it is more complicated than just interpolate, because we have also to change the metric near the boundary. So precisely, we define bar G plus as so E minus 2F, so the same function which define bar G0 times xi Gu plus 1 minus xi G, bar G. Okay, where so is equal to 1 on the for R between 0 and 3, 0 for R larger than 4, and something decreasing in the middle. Just okay. Yes. So the function G plus is the same as, so this is bar G0, and this is 1 minus key bar G. So how is the new metric? Maybe okay, so I will put the figure as in my paper. So the new metric is as follows. So the important radius has 3, 4, and 5. So in this part, the new metric is simply bar G0. Okay. So here the new metric is bar G0. Here you have only this term. So F. So we have pinched a little the metric, the initial metric, and in the middle it is the interpolation of these two metrics. Okay, so here you have to check that so the new metric is phi pinched. It is smaller than the previous metric. And then you pull back on B the metric. Pull back on B. So G plus is psi of, so you have to unscale the metric, so 1 over lambda bar G plus. And here you have your metric, which satisfies the property if you have this. So maybe I must add that the new metric is close to bar G0. So bar G plus is delta prime of delta close to the standard initial metric. Okay. So let me explain the first step, how we find such a DFO. So maybe I will use the picture which is here. Okay. So step 1. We want to find diffeomorphism. So again, this step has two sub-steps. So first, okay, so start with the DFO. Say phi. So by definition of the neck, you have a DFO from N to S2 cross this interval, which is delta close to be isometric, so delta isometric. Using this DFO, you can define, so let N, say N of 0,5 be the preimage of S2 cross 0,5. Of course, it is delta isometric if here you rescale the metric, here for the metric lambda G. So consider the preimage of this subinterval. And then, using this, you construct a diffeomorphism from this subinterval to the same subset in the standard, in the GU metric. So, I take again this picture. So the set I have considered here is this one. So here you have to think you have 0. Here in some sense 5. So this is N0, 5. So start by sending this part to R3 with the GU metric between so 8 and 3. 8. And this is delta isometric, because here it is cylindric. Okay? So I call this the one phi, the same as before, but it's not a problem. Once you have this, you can extend the diffeomorphism C to a diffeomorphism of the ball. So which sends this part of the ball to this ball. So extend phi in phi bar from all the ball. So the ball starts from here to the ball of radius 8. Okay. In dimension 3, we can always extend a diffeomorphism of the sphere to a diffeomorphism of the ball. It is not true in any dimension, but here it's okay. Of course, the map here is not one Lipschitz. It is C Lipschitz for some C. And the second step of the construction is to push this near the end in such a way that this part will be equated. So step 2. push phi as in the following picture. So you have 8, 3. So the relevant numbers are so 8, 6, 5, and here 5 and 3. Okay. So I want to push this ball on this one in such a way that this part is sent isometrically to this one. This part is sent in a very small ball here. And so I don't need, in fact, the 5. No. And this part is sent here in a one Lipschitz way. So here it is cylindric, and here it is cylindric. So you can just do a translation, and it is isometric. So here you take a very small ball of very small radius. So the radius here is, say, eta. So for a small eta, so for eta small enough, the map which send this part to this part is 1 over c Lipschitz. And here you have to send a cylinder of length 3, so to something which is not cylindric. But it is easy that if you do a translation and then a small contraction, you can push this in a one Lipschitz way. Okay? Okay, but now you compose phi by this map, and you obtain the required diffeomorphism. Okay, so call this phi 2. So psi satisfies step 1. So it is delta close to be isometric on the part which arrive here, and it is 1 plus delta Lipschitz on the component on the part which arrive here, because the map bar phi here is 1 plus delta Lipschitz. Fits. Okay. So the proof of step 2. So you push the metric lambda G on this set, and you do the interpolation with bar G0. So step 2. So there is some part where it is easy to prove that the metric is phi pinch. It is the part where the curvature is positive. So we have to check that G bar plus is phi pinch. So by definition, on 0,3 it is equal to bar G0. So here it has a positive curvature. So as strictly positive curvature, so it is trivially phi pinched. On okay, so on 3, 4. So here bar G plus is the interpolation. So here is the formula. So what happened on this part? So on this part, Gu is close to the cylinder, but G is also close to the cylinder. Okay, we are in this part. In this part, G, for the bar G, is close to the cylinder. So, bar G close to G seal, GU also. GU is cylindric. So we have this. Okay, and so if delta is small enough, you can say that this is going to 0 as delta is going to 0. Okay, so now if you add the conformal factor, recall that the function f is fixed. This is also going to 0 if delta is going to 0. So for delta small enough, so this is bar G0. This is bar G plus. For delta small enough, bar G plus is sufficiently close to bar G0 to have positive curvature. Because on the set between 3 and 4, the curvature of bar G0 is larger than a number K0. It is not true near 5, but so for delta small enough, so smaller than the delta 0, which is at the beginning of the theorem, I said that there exists a delta 0 such that, so this defines the delta 0. So the sectional curvature of bar G plus is larger than, say, 1/2 of K0, which is positive. Okay, so it remains to consider the part between 4 and 5. So between 4 and 5, the metric is simply the deformation of the given metric. Or in fact, one can verify that this transformation increases the scalar curvature and the smallest of the eigenvalue of the curvature operator. So, in fact, if say mu is the smallest eigenvalue of bar G, say mu plus the eigenvalue of bar G plus, and similarly R and R plus the scalar curvature. Then we have mu plus is larger than mu and R plus is larger than R. Then so there is a lemma to prove this fact. This is not immediate, but there is some formula to write. Okay, this implies that the phi pinching improves because by assumption, the assumption that the initial metric is a pinch, you have, so nu is larger than minus phi of R. And so you have nu smaller than nu plus. And as phi is increasing, minus phi is decreasing, and so you have this. Okay, so the new metric satisfies the pinching also. be pitched. Okay. It remains to verify that the metric, the new metric is smaller than the previous one. So the fact that the metric is close to bar G0 is quite obvious. To check so I have to do this. Okay. So by construction of the diffeomorphism, which push the metric G in bar G plus, we have Gu smaller than 1 plus delta bar G, because the diffeomorphism is 1 plus delta Lipschitz. And so G plus, bar G plus, is smaller than, so just put the definition. So, I recall the definition. Okay, so on 4.5, so what's happened? On 4.5, this part disappears. You have only this. And this is strictly less than J because F is positive. Recall that F is like that. So this is less than 1. And between 0 and 4, so here we have to deal with the interpolation. So bar G plus. So I put again the formula. Okay, so what can I say? So this is smaller than 1 plus delta bar G. I let this. Okay, so I can say that all of this is smaller than if I put all in factor, in fact, okay, I can bound this by 1 plus delta times this and put in factor, and I have this. So now recall that you are on between 0 and 4. So the function f is bounded from below. So this is smaller than a fixed number. This is 1 minus eta for eta fixed. And so if delta is small enough, this is strictly less than 1. Say delta 1. Okay? And that finishes the proof of the theorem. So it's not so complicated. Is there a question on this? No? Okay, so that's all for the metric surgery theorem. So I will try to explain part of the proof of the canonical neighborhood theorem and why, when you do surgeries, you have to use delta neck rather than epsilon neck. So the proof of canonical neighborhood theorem. Of course, there will be only some parts. So maybe I recall the statement. For all kappa, there exists radius R of kappa, such that if you consider a Ricci flow on some interval, which is kappa non-collapse at scales less than 1, the initial metric is normalized. Then NXT with scalar curvature larger than R minus 2 is center of canonical neighborhood. Okay, so this is for a smooth Ricci flow. But later, in the construction of the Ricci flow with Bludnikov, at some part you have to redo the proof of this theorem with Ricci flow with surgery or Ricci flow with Bludnikov. So let me explain first the smooth case and how surgery causes problems. Okay, so the proof is by contradiction. So you fix kappa, and you start with a sequence, say Re, of numbers which are going to 0, and you have a sequence of Ricci flow. So you have ME times 0 delta E, Ricci flow, which satisfies the assumption here. And in each of them, you have point XCTE with curvature larger than Re minus 2. But not center of a canonical neighborhood. So the idea is to do the rescaling of this sequence, try to take a limit, prove that the limit is a kappa solution, and by definition of the canonical neighborhood, any point in a kappa solution has a canonical neighborhood. And by closeness, you have a contradiction for large E. So the idea is to consider so bar GI of T, let's say QI G of where QI is the scalar curvature, and prove that so the sequence. So when you rescale the metric, the time interval change, it becomes something like minus TI QI 0 at least. So bar GI and centered at X is 0. So this sequence for the rescaled flow converge in an appropriate sense to so something which we define on minus infinity, because so the fact that the metric is normalized will prove that TI cannot go to 0. In fact, TI is bounded. So minus TI QE is going to infinity. A kappa solution. And in particular, X infinity is center of a canonical neighborhood. So to be center of a epsilon canonical neighborhood is an open property with respect to the change of metric. And so X is 0 also for large E. And this is a contradiction, because at the beginning, you assume that your points are not center of a canonical neighborhood. So the proof has several steps. The step 1, or step 0 maybe, is to refine the choice of breadpoint. So in some sense, we change the initial counterexample by some points which are the first in time and with the smallest curvature. So I will define this precisely. The step 1 is to obtain. Okay, you want to obtain convergence here. To obtain convergence, you need a bound on the curvature for this flow. So the first step is to obtain local bound for the curvature. Obtain local estimate on the curvature. Local estimate for the curvature of the rescale metric, the rescale flow. The second step is to extend this estimate in all space. Extend estimate in space, which means on all of M infinity, but for the say ME, but at time 0. And then extend in space in time. Say on ME cross minus tau 0 for some fixed tau. You want to prove that on this subset, so more precisely on balls times this subset, you have uniform bounds for the curvature, and then you consider the maximal tau where you can do this, and you want to prove that this is minus infinity. Step 4, tau 0, so the max of tau such that this is possible. The max of tau such that step 3 is possible, and we want to prove that this is plus infinity. Once you have all of this, you can obtain the convergence of the sequence. Maybe I have to precise what is the convergence used. Probably many of you have not heard of that Hamilton compactness theorem. So, definition. I'm not putting here. Okay. So a sequence, say ME say GI of t on some interval say A0. So converge to M infinity. If here in fact the interval is open, if there exists an exhaustion of M infinity by open subset, so by open sets UE, and diffeomorphism from UE to psi of UE contained in ME, you can impose that so the set here all contains the base point, and that the base point here is sent to the base point here, such that if you pull back the flow which lies here, it converges in norm. So such that say PE star of GI of dot minus G infinity of dot, and all is derivative converge on all compact subset of M infinity times A0. So converge to 0 uniformly on compact subset of this set. So the theorem we want to apply is the Hamilton compactness theorem to have this convergence. So consider so ME a sequence as here, sequence of complete Cauchy flow. So we need two assumptions. So assume that there exists a number 0 and for all rho and tau, so rho is positive and tau is in the interval 0. So for all rho and tau there exists a constant which depends on both, such that, so first the injectivity radius at the base point xi for the metric GI of 0 is bounded from below by this number. And secondly, we have estimate on the curvature, so the norm of the curvature operator is bounded by this constant. So on parabolic neighborhood centered at xi 0 with radius rho and the time interval minus 2. So if you have these two estimates, the sequence will subconverge to another Ricci flow. Then Mi subconverge to M infinity, which is complete Ricci flow. So M infinity like this. And so the assumption you need is that at time 0, at the point, you have a bond from below for the injectivity radius. And for any radius rho and times tau, a bond on the curvature here. For all E, a bond which does not depend of E. So you need an arbitrarily large interval in space and in time. So clearly, when you consider Ricci flow with surgery, if there is surgery here, you are in trouble to apply the theorem. So you have to prove that the surgery, in fact, are away from this set. So the step 0 of the proof. Step 0 is a claim. Which is that there exists another point, say x prime e, t prime e. So for each e, there exists another point such that it has large scalar curvature, so larger than Ri minus 2. It is not center of an epsilon canonical neighborhood. So as the, it's not on the board, as the first one, but any other yt with so t less than t prime and scalar curvature at least twice the curvature of this one is center of a canonical neighborhood. Okay, so we want another base point, which is a counterexample to the theorem. And such that if you take another point before, if the curvature of this one is twice the curvature of this one is center of a epsilon canonical neighborhood. And the proof is easy. We start so you start with xite. So if it fits the claim, you stop. If not, which means that if it did not fit the claim, it means that there exists another point, so yt. So there exists, yes, or maybe xe1, te1, with curvature twice this one, but not center of a canonical neighborhood. So I will write just like this. This is not center of a canonical neighborhood. So you choose this point. So you forget this one, choose this point, and consider if he satisfies the claim. If it's okay, you stop. If not, there is another point. And you iterate. Iterate, we find another point with curvature twice this one. So as the curvature double at each step, but you have a flow with bounded curvature between 0 and here, the processus must stop. And when it stops, you have the good point. Okay, so iterate. Iterate until the last fits. Here we use the fact that the curvature is bounded. So it works in non-compact case as well as in compact case because the curvature is bounded. So we choose this point x prime t prime e, and so I relabel it xi-ti. So we can assume that xi-ti fits the claim. And so we rescale the flow by the curvature QE of this point, as before. So what we know at this moment, so we rescale the metric. For the moment, we only know that so the time ti becomes the times 0, and the point here has curvature 1. So for notation, I will just put a bar for on a point if the curvature is computed with the rescale metric. It is more easy to read than put some bar GE here. Okay, so by definition of the rescaling, the scalar curvature of the new metric has value 1 at this point. And you only know that if a point here has curvature larger than 2, it is the center of a epsilon canonical neighborhood. So if okay, at some point. So what you want now is a local estimate. So you want to prove that, say, near the Boyce point, the curvature cannot be too large. So precisely, so the step 1, local estimate, is the following. I give you maybe a simpler version than the general version. So I claim that so R is below 8 on the parabolic neighborhood of radius 1 over 4 eta minus 1 over 8 eta. So what is this eta? In the definition of epsilon canonical neighborhood, there is some local estimate. There is this, and this is this eta. And there is this one. Okay, so this is the same eta. Okay, so I claim that things cannot be bad near this point. And the proof is quite easy. Okay, so first, I want to obtain a spatial estimate. So your point here has a scalar curvature 1. So I begin to prove that the curvature is below 4. Say 1 over 4 eta. So I begin to prove that here the curvature is below 4. So assume that there is some point with a curvature larger than 4. Say x. So assume x bar larger than 4. Then you can find a segment where the curvature is above 2 and the curvature is 2 here and 4 here. Okay, so find say so I will keep my notation maybe. So xc prime x prime, a subsegment where the curvature is larger than 2 and it is 2 at this extremity and 4 here. Okay, so what happens when R is larger than 2? By the choice of the point, we know that each point of the segment is a center of a epsilon canonical neighborhood. So each point satisfies this estimate. So you can integrate this estimate on the segment. So it satisfies this one. And so if you integrate on the segment this inequality, so it is an easy calculus, integrate. And what it gives, so it gives 2 of x prime e minus r minus 1/2 of x prime is less than the distance between the point. So the distance for the rescale metric, and so this is smaller than 1/8 by choice. And this is, so this one is 1/2. This one must be 1/2 by choice of the point, and this is not possible. This is a contradiction. Okay, so if I had chosen my constant correctly, it works. Okay, and to extend in space the estimate, you argue in the same way, but you use this estimate. Okay, so you can extend in space by the same arguments. Okay, so you can generalize this ID to obtain local estimate at each point, in fact, in the past. So similarly, can obtain bonds. So where is my statement? Okay, can obtain estimate on the form so R smaller than 4qx on P of x t 1/2 eta square root of qx minus 1/8 eta qx if qx is more or less the scalar curvature at xt. So it is the absolute value of the scalar curvature plus 2. Okay, so this means that at any point, you have a small neighborhood where the curvature can be bounded by, in some sense, the curvature of the point. Okay? So here, the curvature is bounded by 8, but at any point, you can obtain a local estimate which compare the curvature here and here. Okay. Okay, the second step, it is the more difficult, in fact, in all the proof, is to extend this estimate on all the space, and not only locally. I think I can explain just this one. Step 2, so consider, so rho 0, the sup of radius rho positive, such that there exists a constant C of rho, such that the scalar curvature is bounded by C of rho on the ball of radius rho for all E. So it is non-zero by the first step, and it is larger than 1 over 4 eta. We want to prove that this is plus infinity. Again, it is by contradiction. So assume rho 0 is bounded. So you can apply a local version of Hamilton theorem to obtain the convergence on the ball of radius rho. So local Hamilton compactness that the sequence of balls with the metric converge to a ball. Of course, the limit is not complete. So you have a picture like this. Where the limit is defined on the ball, and the curvature goes to infinity as you approach the boundary. And you have also a small flaws on this set, because if you look at what happened at time 0, so for each row you have a uniform bound by definition of rho 0. So for each row, you can apply the local estimate to extend in time. So you have, in fact, a bound on the curvature like this. So R is bounded here by some C prime of rho. So in fact, the flow, the metric here, in the interior of the ball, is the finite time slice of a flow. Okay, of course, when you approach the boundary, the lifetime of the flow is smaller. Okay, so how do you obtain a contradiction? So one can prove that, in fact, if you consider a geodesic where the curvature is going to infinity, it is covered by epsilon next, because the curvature is large. So you have canonical neighborhood at this scale. So here, in fact, you have some cylinder. Union of, in fact, it is strong epsilon next. And the picture is like this. The curvature is going to infinity, so here it is not Riemannian, but away from the boundary it is epsilon x, a strong epsilon x. So the contradiction use the Hamilton strong maximum principle. So I explain just this point and I stop. So if you start with the metric, say mg with Rm of g positive, say G0, and you consider a Ricci flow such that G of 0 is G0, so Rm of Gt is positive, but there is only two possibilities when T is strictly positive. So either Rm is strictly positive, either the metric splits. Okay, so either the curvature becomes strictly positive, either it is locally a product. Look. So the idea is to apply this principle on this set, or not exactly on this set, because here we can have a strictly positive curvature. So the idea, which is quite terrible, is to use the cotangent, the tangent cone. Tangent cone so assume that the point here is y infinity. So it is not a Riemannian. So if you have this point, it is not a Riemannian subset, but it is an Alexandrov space. And what can be proved is that if you consider a sequence of necks which go to y infinity and you rescale them, you can make them converge to an x whose finite time slice is a cone. So it is a tangent cone, which is also the final time slice at some point away from the extremity of a flow, a Ricci flow, which has two properties. It has positive curvature, and it is not a product, and it is non-flat. Okay, so Rm is positive, but not strictly. Because you have direction where the curvature is 0, but its end time it is not a product because it is a cone. So not positive and not a product. So it contradicts this principle. So I'm going very quick. So I think I stop now. Do you have a question? Yes. Is a scalar curvature. But as you have the Hamilton-Harvey pinching, it is the same to say that the curvature operator is bounded, in fact. The curvature operator is bounded if the scalar curvature is bounded by the Hamilton-Harvey pinching. It is used to apply the compactness theorem. So to apply the compactness theorem, you need not only to bound the scalar curvature, but all the curvature. Oh. No question? So thank you for your attention.